West of What is a roundtable conversation inspired by Mother Earth's call for more landwork ceremonies to happen. This is a podcast where spirituality lands into politics, history, culture, and more, because land is where we all meet. We want to know how we can come into greater connection with the land and each other, and how we can all move forward with integrity. We believe the answers and solutions will come from many voices, from the truths that happen inside of our togetherness. Hello and welcome to West of What, and I am delighted to say we have Rozy Glow with us. I asked her how she wanted to be introduced, and she said maverick, trailblazer, extraterrestrial, whatever you want. And that's why I love Rozy so much, because she has this absolute ability to attune you to the potential of yourself, to attune us to the potential of our collective, to our highest timeline. She's so multidimensional, and yet she's also so grounded and down to earth. And so it is, given the time that we are recording, which we will go into, it is my great honor to say that Rozy is joining us today. And our intention for this episode is that you remember your true self, and you remember that you are a bringer of peace. Rozy, thank you so much for coming on to West of What.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted.
Thank you for your amazing introduction. Best introduction we've had.
Well, that's what I am today. Tomorrow I'll be something else, and the day after it'll be something else. So what's all these titles anyway, eh?
Exactly. And, you know, before we started recording, the listeners don't know this, but we have actually recorded this episode several times, and due to various reasons, it's never aligned that it's actually been published. And we were saying that I was saying that it actually makes sense to me that now is the time that we're recording and this one will be published. And it makes sense to me because your work, your mission is very much about helping to anchor peace into the collective. And at the time of recording, it is early March 26, and the collective looks anything but peaceful right now. So it feels like exactly the right time to be having this conversation, and having this conversation on West of What, because you know, West of What really is this conversation that is trying to bridge the ethereal knowledge that we have, the cosmic knowledge that we have, and what's going on the ground of the 3D reality. And so I'm sure you have so much to say about this, and I feel like it is absolutely the right time that this is happening.
Oh, it's so exciting. And I'm going to just start with, if I start to cry for no reason, that's because I'm a woman and I'm 47 and a half years old and presently going through a lot of hormonal shifts and feeling the collective. And I think this is so important for us. Whatever our gender identity is, we have a connection to the cosmos and also to Mother Earth. And, you know, as above, so below, as below, so above. I got the memo back in 2020 at the start of this this decade, you know, the decade of clear vision, of seeing what has been hidden in plain sight, of having to face one ugly truth after another in order for us to create a new baseline and grow from a new foundation. The memo I received was, in our universe, the light had won. And this was at the darkest time. Another lockdown had been announced. None of us believed anyone in power had anything, you know, positive to say or our best interests at heart, but fear was so rife in the collective. just like now shock is so rife in the collective. We've had a lot of different challenging emotions to clear. But only 2 days ago, when I was hosting my Celestial Alchemy Live, I was saying, remember, the world is currently operating like headless chickens, like running around like crazy, not realizing that actually they're dead, right? This old system is actually in collapse, but it looks anything but that. So let's caveat this and also honor that there are many people whose lives are being taken right now. There's a lot of suffering going on presently, and there has been a lot of suffering that's coming to light. We are not denying that. But those who are in my camp, those who are here to do this work, are here to hold the frequency of the world we want to create. We're here to see that while everything else is going on around us, and hold that so steady that we are able to calibrate into it so that our reality shifts around us. And we hold that frequency and we see past the illusion into what we're creating now. We become masters of holding frequency, not holding space. And as we each do this ourselves, we connect to each other. And that's the resonance that creates a frequency shift in the field. And, I'm going to talk about the 3-prong formula for peace, of course, and all the other things around it. But this is the starting point to recognize how powerful we are. And if you are a light leader, and I believe anyone who calls themselves a light worker is a light leader, because we're leading with our light. Let's let go of work. I'm done with working hard. The eclipse we've just had, that was the end of the struggle paradigm as far as I'm concerned. But we have to remind ourselves every day, many moments a day, of this truth, the new reality we are creating. And I feel like for those of us who are light leaders, we have been going through so many challenges. I've seen so many of those that I aspire, I look up to, I admire, almost in hiding presently. I know I have been, because the recalibration of going from the wood snake year to the fire horse year has been shedding self-identities that are so deeply ingrained that we've really come to believe they're who we are. No, who am I if I'm not the stress head, the control freak, the overworker, the overachiever? Who am I? Over to you. Who are you, Kahreela?
Fuck knows. I want to ask though, because I know that so many people are in this predicament where they understand about manifestation, they understand about frequency, and yet they're hitting up against something that says, well, how do we hold a frequency when children are being blown up? Okay. Like, how do we, I know so many people now that are in this conflict of, like, where does it become spiritual bypassing? Where is it service? How do we, I'm kind of the school that frequency activism is essential, shadow activism is essential, magical activism is essential, actual activism is essential. Like, we've got to do it all. But I know that so many people are coming up against this right now. And I just wonder what you have to say.
I'd love to speak to this, because I think it's essential to recognize that, by and large, those of us who are here as star seeds, as way showers, we're empaths. We're feeling the pain of the world, excruciating pain in this world. Now, I'm not the woman who currently has lost a baby or, has got a leg missing, or any of the things that are happening in real time for people right now. But I know that when I see something like that, it triggers in me a response. When I hear about something, it triggers in me a response. So the only way I can hold frequency is to process what comes up for me, and to choose neutrality over judgment every time. I say that as someone that behind the scenes will go, for fuck's sake, what are these fucking morons doing? Right? And still at the same time go, okay, that's a part of me speaking. Let's let every voice come out. Let's hear it, and let me use the tools I have been given to process what's coming up, so that I can, in real time, deal with what's showing up for me. So then I am in capacity to then go, right, today, I can't listen to the news. I can't open myself to the world outside of there. I just need to come to myself, to my breath, be in nature, talk to a friend, cry, whatever it is that's going on. So coming back to what I was saying about hormones, I think there are lots of light leaders in this world who are a similar age to me right now, perimenopausal. There's a lot of, we can't filter anymore. We're just literally feeling in real time and processing in real time. And many of us have been holding space for others for so long, which is why I said frequency, not space, that we might have done a lot of clearing for ourselves, or maybe we've done a lot of clearing for them. And now it's important for us to come back to ourselves and clear for us on a personal level. Frequency is one thing, but there's three real things at play that I feel are important for any of us who are leading the way as trailblazers, which means there's no path ahead to follow. You are creating the path, right? You are beating down the pathway, just like anyone who went over to America, anyone who's gone and done the tough bit to break it for everyone else, right? And so the important thing here is that we are recognizing perception, narrative, and frequency are all key players. And so we're called to be aware of our narrative, to be aware of our perception filter, and as a result of that, to understand our frequency will be resonating according to those things. So constant narrative shifting and perception filter shifting is required. This is everything I do. It's what's in the book. It's what many of us are teaching. Because of my background in birth and pregnancy and epigenetic trauma, though, I haven't seen such a complex understanding. And I know I'm blowing my own trumpet here, but this is about seeing the root and the symptoms and being able to address it and have a consistent way of showing up for ourselves, which doesn't mean being out in the world every day. One of the most important ways to hold frequency is sometimes to just accept you need to have a duvet day and be with yourself and be with all that is there and give yourself permission. And as someone who has run on 1,000 miles an hour, fuel for so long, learning to just slow down, realize I'm right on time. I'm even ahead of time. Look at us here. 4th time we're recording this, I think, right? Now's the time for it. How does that feel?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that my guides are saying is really important right now is holding the silence.
Yeah.
Because they say that everything is born in silence. The new timeline, the new possibilities, the potential, all of that's in the silence. So if you can do nothing else to make a difference, hold the silence. Hold the silence while there's all this noise going on. And that doesn't mean that you don't contribute in other ways to helping our brothers and sisters that are suffering. We're just talking about how you can be part of holding the frequency, like you say. Why is frequency so important?
Because basically it's going to determine your reality, right? If you are, okay, so this is really relevant to where we are today. So we've just had this lunar eclipse in Virgo, and we've also got Mercury retrograde. So there's a lot around the nervous system and around communication as well. So from my professional background, I'll explain that we're all either wired to survive or thrive. Our physiology is wired according to the maternal conditions, pre-conception, conception, and during pregnancy and birth. It's not just maternal, it's paternal too, actually. But the important thing to recognize is our sort of frequency baseline is either stress or safety, security, right? That's where it is. We're either adrenaline and stress hormone dominant, or we are oxytocin and love hormone dominant. And the basis of that truth will determine whether we see the world as threatening or we see the opportunities within the challenges and are able to critically think, so to be able to not just be played and also to find our way through. So if we are saying all the I ams in the world, right, and we're, doing our spiritual practices, but inside of us, we're just running on that fear and we haven't addressed this. You can do all the yoga in the world, right? And I am a yoga teacher as well. But when you get off that mat, if you do not take with you that frequency shift and you just go, right, done my yoga, now I'm going to get on with the day. You anchor, you this, you that, all of the stuff, right? then it's not really working for you, because the point of it is that we are able to, over time, incrementally, make our shift from being wired to survive to being wired to thrive. But humanity, we have this little blind spot which we kind of learn something new and then we do it on our autopilot. That's part of how we grow. But we don't therefore keep plugging in. And in my experience of having all the tools, let's say, and all of the sort of trainings I've done, my 10,000 hours in every area I have, my expert status, whatever that is, still facing what's been going on in here in the last few years, knowing that whether I'm processing for myself or for the collective or both, it's terror, it's anger, it's rage, it's fear, it's whatever it is. Doesn't matter what created it. What matters is that we face it, we lean into it, we own it so that we can then change it. Otherwise, we stay in the narrative that we were given and we stay in the frequency that we inherited. Does that answer your question?
And what is the frequency that we inherited?
Well, I mean, I can say to you what I understand that can be proven and things that can't be proven that are just taking me way back in time. But what we have inherited is trauma. Even if you just go back to the world wars, right? That effectively are called world wars because they impacted everyone on some level. Now, we didn't have the extent of the internet and TV in the same way. We did have propaganda. We did have news. We did have some TV. And we've had civil wars and genocides going on all around the world from time immemorial. So it is pretty safe to say that there is trauma that has passed through everyone at some point, unless you've lived in the middle of the forest and never come across another tribe, right? We've all had this. So what happens in our sort of physiological evolution is we remember the scariest things that ever happened, right? And we try and prevent them happening, that this is in our cellular memory. So we inherit the best and the worst of our ancestors. It's the best way I can describe it for you, right? And their experiences. And I am not a cell biologist, and I'm not going to go too far down the biology and science route because other people can explain it much better than me. But if people are interested, you can look up epigenetics, you can look up the studies that have been done on famines, for example, over the wars, also the Holocaust survivors and the impact that they've had. It's a real physical thing in how it impacts us, never mind psychologically and emotionally and spiritually. This is one thing. The other thing is we've inherited a disconnection to source, right? For how long, I don't know, but certainly for the patriarchal era when we were told you had to have an intermediary between you and the divine, and all of the gender war programming, because it is against women, but it's also against men too, right? I am not here in any other way as to say humanity, wow, we've been through a lot. Now, if we go a little left field, right, and we go to the time that we were first ever here, I mean, I talk about this like a toddler, right? I don't have the refined, as a channel, you bring up some really beautiful stuff and I'm always in awe of it, right? For me, it's, okay, I know I have clear cognizance, clear sentience. I was a Paradise Earth code keeper. I came here as one of the original code keepers to seed them into this planet. I was a leader way back in the time of a leader. I was probably, well, the vibe I get, the memory I have is of Pleiadian energy, Pleiadian goddess energy coming in, Arcturian goddess energy coming in, and, mating with the mere mortals, for want of a better word, right? And I think there's been a lot of in extraterrestrial mating, splicing on this planet. And I'm just talking intuitively because it's not something I've done a lot of research on. But way back when, whether we're talking about the fact that this planet was meant to be a planet of choice and free will, as I understand it, I started to read texts about this when I was 14 years old, 13 years old, when I first started to have the experience of rebirthing and working with a spiritual teacher. I used to go and do world healing meditations with an amazing woman called Senaway for Safo, who was running a center in Singapore where I lived at the time. How young, how blessed was I to have that experience at that time, right? I learned a lot. I read The Only Planet of Choice by Powell Jenkins and got this sense that this was meant to be a planet where we learned what it's like to create physically. And it was a planet of free will. And that free will was taken advantage of by more nefarious ET or alien, if you like, influences. Now, I've also heard this is meant to be a living library for all the different species in our universe. I can go with that. The main thing is, people like me, or my soul memory is, I've come along to seed some lovely codes on this planet so we can all learn what it's like to live physically in harmony and have heaven on earth in a physical, dense planet, because creating in energy is lovely, but you don't really get the tangible experience. And I had this sense, as we all did at the time from my soul memory, that we were just going to do it and see it, and it's going to be a lovely experiment. We had no idea that we would have to wait this long to now, for us to actually be able to activate those Paradise Earth codes. Yes, we had Lemuria. We had Mu, we had Lemuria, we had Atlantis. We've had all these different falls and cataclysms. And so my take on it is, those of us who are here today, we are bloodline survivors, right? We are bloodline winners. I don't want to say survivors. Like we're here despite everything that's ever happened. Somehow we sprouted to be here. But how many different cataclysms, whether man-made, whether nature, whether ET, have happened that we have a soul memory of, if not a bloodline memory of. And what we're being called to do is to go way back to the time before the original fall and restore our nervous system, our coding to the norm of creation. But we're so busy holding on to the memories of the awful things that happen because we don't want them to happen again. And by virtue of the fact that we're looking out for them all the time, we are recreating them. This is part of the legacy.
Do you feel that this time is different? I mean, obviously that's how it feels to me, but you see something like what's going on now politically and it's so tragic, and sometimes you get, you fall into that darkness and you lose a bit of hope. But do you feel that this is almost like the worst and the last of it? Because when you look at what's going on with astrology, when you look at what's happening with the transition of the Chinese zodiac, when you look at the ascension into the new earth, where you look at where Lemuria failed and where we are meant to fix that ascending with our physical body and trying not to be ruined and self-sabotaged by ego. What I'm noticing about this is this what has needed to happen for people to wake up? Because what I've noticed about this politically, it's the same play that's been used for the last 20 years and possibly much, much longer. But a lot of people are starting to call it out for what it is. And that's not something I've seen before. They've used the same playbook, but it almost seems more aggressive. It almost seems more desperate. And people who I never thought would clue onto this are really starting to clue on, and they're pointing the fingers at the right people and they're asking the right questions. So is this what has had to happen for people to finally wake up? Because it's important for people, especially those who are less, awake or have been on their path for not quite as long, to have something to shake things up and to start questioning their reality.
Absolutely. I mean, look, The Art of War, propaganda, these are books. They've existed for a very long time. Before the wars. I'm in a very privileged position. We all are right now, right? Let's just own that. But to be able to witness and look around and go, sorry for swearing, I hope it's okay for that.
Yeah, everything goes in.
But it's like, what an amazing time to be alive. I remember being 4 years old, looking around going, why does everyone feel so sad and look so sick and miserable? What am I doing here? Why did I choose to... I'm 3/4 Greek, so I was born in England, but I lived in Greece as a child. And oh my God, I hate going back to Greece. Forgive me for saying this, but it's the density I feel. When I'm on an island and I'm away from what I can feel in the earth, because I didn't realize really until starting to work with you, Kahreela, how I feel the earth where I go. And it makes me really annoying because there's lots of places I don't want to go, right? But this whole thing is like, yes, it had to get like this. And I also don't feel that everyone is going to wake up. I don't think it needs to happen. It's for mass. But the main thing is for us to not perpetuate this cycle anymore. The apocalypse is the great reveal. Apocalypto, I'm revealing, I am uncovering what has been hidden. So you could relate it on a soul level as well to our collective amnesia. You know, the game on this planet was to come, forget you were a master and remember you're a master, right, through your process, right? This is what star seeds have been doing for a really long time. For me, a star seed is a higher frequency soul coming to the planet that's lower density to help raise its frequency through its purpose, right? But essentially, we're now in a place where it's like we don't need to do that anymore. We can have souls come in and have their memories intact because the parents can stay conscious enough to be able to nurture their children from preconception through to 7, 8, 9 years of life and preserve what would have been knocked out of us all this time before. So we are literally at the time where we have this choice point to be wired to thrive from before we're born, right? From before we're born and even before we're conceived. I don't know if you know this, I love adding these little facts in, but the sperm that makes a child is programmed according to conditions 60 to 90 days before. The egg that is produced that will be conceived with the egg and the sperm meet was according to conditions of 3 to 4 months before that actual day. So when we think of time lag, it's very interesting, right? And how we have been programmed and wired constantly and perpetuated fear is just in us all the time. So back to what you're saying about leaders. Our leaders are birth traumatized. Our leaders are in severe lack consciousness.
They're not leaders.
They're not leaders.
By the definition, my guides say that leadership is making sure everybody's needs are met. So the current leaders are not making sure everybody's needs are met. They're making sure the needs of the few are met, which defuncts them as leaders.
Absolutely. But equally, the only reason, like if we took it from a human point of view, why would someone ever want to rise to that level of power, right? You know, you get to a certain point and you are going to be manipulated. I mean, I love that today we can talk so openly about things that 5 years ago, I would have been very subtle. 3 years ago, very subtle about what I was talking about. But I feel like it can be said now, you know, we're recognizing that, you know, Nazi Germany, from my knowledge, was totally nefarious I don't want to say extraterrestrial, alien interception, what was going on, right? And this has been going on for such a long time that, look at, isn't it amazing? We've got talk about cloning now. We've got talk about the Pentagon revealing everything that's going on with UFOs. But we'll hold off on that because what are the religious people going to do about that one, right? We are finally seeing how the elite have been all held and suppressed through this whole Epstein thing and everything that's been going on. And it's like, this is you selling your soul for this. So we know the abuse of power comes as no surprise, because why do you want that level of power? And yet we're all so powerful. We are abusing our own power by not recognizing how powerful we are and using that power wisely.
I mean, this is what my guides are saying. They're saying that, you know, anybody that's wielding bombs has no understanding of power, because to use that much energy to make something happen is against the laws of creation. So the fact that they're wielding bombs is proof that they don't understand what power is. And that really, as humanity, we have to remember what power is and start to perceive everything that they're doing, from the ritualistic magic to the disregard for life, as evidence of how far they are from their own divinity. And therefore, they have nothing on us. And I feel that this could be, this time could be our initiation into guardianship. Because the thing is what's happening isn't just against humanity, it's against life. And actually, they don't have any allies here. They don't have any allies here. They're against life. They're against the heart. The core crystal is called the core crystal of love. They're against love. And really, we just need to we need to remember that we are allied with life.
Mm-hmm.
And that how we stand to meet this, and it is, I agree with you that it's a frequency stance as much as a political one. And a ceremonial stance, because they're doing ceremony.
Mm.
And to meet ceremony with ceremony, you know, if you think about this, they have target weapons now. They can take out whoever they want. So why are they blowing up children if it isn't an offering?
Beautifully put. Beautifully put, Kahreela.
Because why are they blowing up children when they can target anyone they want and take out anyone they want if they're not making an offering? And so when are we going to step up and make our offerings?
I love what you're saying here. And I think part of it is, okay, we all have to recognize on some level where we're still plugged in, where we're plugged into the system in a way that we are like not aware of it. So for example, you know, governments, when were they ever for us? Why do we listen? Like, why do we give them the power they have?
And the money and the energy.
Like, we don't need to do this.
Yeah.
But equally, we're very good at pointing out the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And until we are disciplined enough, discipleship, I don't mean this as a punishment, I mean as a learning and as a teaching to go, we don't want this. What do we want instead? Let's talk about what we do want. Because I do find, and I you know, I've kind of pulled away a little bit. I got invited to go and talk at different communities, like, you know, festivals, etc. over time. I find a lot of wounded people that aren't dealing with their wounds. They're just projecting blame and going, I don't want this. This is terrible. It's really bad. Let's hope there's going to be a change. There's no freaking hoping. We're going to create it. What do you want? And you can't just be against something. We've been taught to unite against a common enemy. The Star Peace Collective say unite towards a common goal. You know, what you were saying before about the darkness of, I'll never forget before I got that message that the light had won, I was just like, whoa, this is beyond. I don't know what to do with this right now. I've been holding space, light, everything for so long. What's going on this planet? Are we all just going to disappear? And then when this message came through, it was, no, the light has won. You're right on time. Everything's cool. Just don't buy into this. Let it play out. And then what you were talking before about, they're not pro-life. They're not for what we stand for on this planet. One of the visions I was given, because most of my guidance comes through dream states, was of a black hole having opened up in our universe. It was the creation of another black hole. Another universe. And it's like a parent saying, okay, you can't carry on doing that here. That's not what we do here. If you want to do that somewhere, you have to go over there and do it. You can do it, but not here. That's not what we do in this house, right? And it's us being able to remember we are the parent. We are mother, father, divine, going, no, this is not it. This is a garden for the divine children. We've got a whole load of wounded children running the world, and they're not running the world. They're puppets being influenced by others. And, it, you know, in the end, we just have to remember. That's what I'm seeing. But it is an internal thing more than an external thing, because anyone who has activism, you know, if you've got an indigo energy in you, I'm an indigo too. If you've got that sort of sense of, you know, fighting for justice, fighting for change, just by virtue of where we are in the world, where we're coming to a unified field consciousness, you can't be fighting. It might have been the energy that was needed before, but we're not. If we're collapsing duality, coming into oneness, working with polarity, then we have to shift our perception of what needs to happen. That doesn't mean that we don't stand up and go, no way, Jose, not happening. And I'm pressurizing the change here and I'm commanding that change. But it's where you're coming from inside of you that matters. And having done that, it's the difference between me, and I did it recently. I'll never forget seeing an article about cesarean rates going up, and the reason that was given by experts, what a load of nonsense, was that our brains were getting bigger, so they couldn't fit in the pelvis. Now, I'm an expert around. I'm just like, what a fucking load of toss. Who came up with that? And, you know, a pelvis is malleable. 30% more space can be created. I'm so excited to say, though, right now on Instagram, I'm seeing all the things I used to teach 15, 20 years ago now becoming common knowledge. This is how you get a baby out. This is how you do this. I'm like, brilliant. It's happening. Great. It is out there. Right. But the point was, I went on a rant. Online. I hadn't checked my emotions. I was just vilified, anger projected out. That's not, as an influencer, that's not helpful. All you're doing, if you go and don't center yourself before you put something out there, is others will pick up on that emotion, that raw emotion that triggers their raw emotion. And I've been seeing this in the collective, quite a few influencers, some men, and I just want to say, come on, let's look at this differently. We're not angry enough. We are angry enough. We are more than angry enough. What we need to know is how to channel that anger constructively, to create change, not for change's sake, but to allow ourselves to channel this energy so that the old structures can come down, because we have been creating the new structures. We haven't quite finished yet, though. If suddenly you had a massive shift in consciousness towards a new reality, what are the new systems that we're putting in place? I don't see them yet.
And also, are we going to, you know, in my experience of shadow work is that, and, you know, whatever we're seeing on the collective is the collective shadow, which means it's our shadow. And my experience of shadow work is that you only really crack the pattern when you're willing to grieve what it's giving you. And it is so easy on the personality level to go, it's not giving me anything. There is nothing that I agree with this. I do not comply, blah, 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 blah. But the thing is that until we, I think until we look at the part of us that likes to give our power away, that doesn't like the responsibility, you know, we get to blame the other countries, the leaders, the 1%, we get to blame them. We get to blame the other religions, we get to blame history, we get to blame our ancestors, and therefore we don't have to take responsibility. And I feel like this wound around responsibility is really the key, because that's the thing. That's the reason why we give power to mad kings, right?
Yeah, exactly that. And
we don't want the responsibility. We want to be the teenagers that are like just enjoying this planet, having a nice time.
Yeah. And that is definitely one take on it. And I'm so with you. And I think the inner teen is the part of us that requires most of our attention right now. We've done a lot of inner child work, right, as a collective of awakening humans. But the inner teen has been running the show. Like, most of the people I work with have rebelled from their conditioning, but they're in a state of rebellion. It's a swing pendulum the other way. They're not centered. Conscious creatives creating, putting stuff out in the world. This is my passion, working with these people, saying, okay, let's integrate shadow and light before you put that out there. Take them from problem to solution. Don't just put the pain out there. That is not helpful to anyone, right? Metabolizing, processing is key. We need to have access to the way to do this, but we want to come to resolution and not be kept in the pain. And teenagers, you know, toddlerhood, teenhood, you could say pregnancy, postnatal, and then perimenopause. Very, very interesting for the feminine element. And this impacts men too, because obviously we're all in relationship with each other and we have our inner masculine as well. But these are key times where it's almost like there's a brain, what's the word? Like, what is the best way I can describe it, right? So it's like
a passage of hormones.
and it's reorganizing itself. I mean, a toddler's just like the first year of your life. The way we process information is faster than any computer we know, known computer. I mean, quantum computers, even there, I would say there's something in this. Like, the information is so much that by the time you get to a toddler, you've got to go, right, what am I keeping? What am I letting go of? right? And at every stage, this is the case. So the teen rebellion, we can't run the new earth with teen rebellion leaders running it. That is not a good idea, right? That is just not a good idea. So we are being given this opportunity. I mean, if you go by the idea that the age of Aquarius has a birth canal leading us to 2032, we've still got some time to mature, right? To come to a place where we're ready to own that leadership. And we're practicing at the moment. We're practicing. Can I hold, more of my power? Can I be more of an influence? Can I be more visible? Will I let more of my light and shadow be visible to the world? That, as leaders, the vulnerability piece is huge.
And can I be in integrity, right? Because where the leaders of the new world will be more powerful than the leaders of the current world is through their integrity.
Absolutely. One of the star maps is the 6 pillars of divine human leadership. And these were given to me by the Star Peace Collective, right? So, this is all channeled. And I if you know me personally, ADHD, chaos creative, little piles of mess everywhere. So, of course, it's my divine destiny to create structures, right? I am the Virgo Pisces axis. It runs through me. So you have integrity right at the top, right? You've got accountability, transparency, compassion, discernment, and forgiveness. Because again, this is more the feminine triangle, if you like, the masculine, but victim versus victim consciousness. I mean, recently, I've never identified as a victim before, holding victim consciousness. I'm a rescuer, right? Or I'm, someone that's going to bully others with my loudness and my rage. But to own in this period of my life, the poor me has been huge, right? Huge. And we have to
tell us more about that.
Sure. So, I recently on Sunday, window into my world. So yeah, my hormones have been fluctuating, and I've had to accept recently that I've needed some support from a system that I normally don't buy into at all. So, I've recently just gone on bioidentical HRT, which I'm speaking about because I want to have this conversation with spiritual men and women and say, this was the difference between me being able to carry on right now and not. Right? That's where I was. And I've tried everything I can to manage this for the last 2 to 3 years, but it's just got somewhere crazy. And until it stabilizes, I couldn't carry on, basically, being in service on any level. Now, this is not about pushing stuff down. It's about being able to manage it in accordance with all the other things going on in the world, because I am very highly sensitive and I hold a lot of frequency, right? I do a lot of the work that I'm doing, you don't get to do unless you're incredibly neurodiverse to hold all of these things, right? So what I didn't know is when you're going through this phase, it really affects your brain. So there's nothing physical for me. It's emotional and psychological. So Sunday, my daughter and my stepdaughter are visiting, and my husband's there. You all claim to know about Star Peace, and you know me, but you've not read my book. I felt so hard done by for the fact that they haven't read my book. And I've given you the audio version to read ahead of everyone else because you don't like reading. And this is it. It was just feeling like, what am I doing? I put all this stuff out in the world. Virtually no one knows about it just yet. What am I doing? I feel like I've put so much effort out there to support, to shift the shift, and I don't feel supported. And that was a big thing, right? But here's the thing is, in me owning parts of me I've never really recognized before and turning towards them rather than, I haven't got time for you. I'm going to reject you, abandon you, betray you because you don't fit my idea of who I am. I'm going to meet you. Come here, you. You have worked really, really hard. You've worked much harder than you needed to, sweetheart. Should we do something different, right? And this is this threshold again now of I talked about the being wired to survive to being wired to thrive, but it's the fear matrix to divine matrix. I was born into stress head parents. I love my parents, right? But gosh, 0 to 100, total anxiety, total worry, total worst case scenario type stuff, right? Earliest memories, pretty challenging. lots of stuff. I would say up until I was 40, life felt really, really hard. And then I had a really great year. And then the years after that have been quite challenging too, right? I know. 40 was great. Take me back. I loved 40. But now I feel like I'm taking what I learned at 40 and going, you have to apply this every day. Because we all forget, I'm just straight up honesty here. We forget the one thing we have to do every day, put our soul in control. Okay, put your highest self in control. You can do your practice, you can meditate. But again, it's the remembering to remember in those moments when you decide you need to act in haste, when there's pressure to perform, when, you feel like you have to make someone else your priority over you, that we forget. And we get so caught up in what we think we should do and all the problems we have, and we haven't handed them over. I teach the choiceless path. The choiceless path is when you surrender to your higher self and go, thy will be done. Show me how I can fulfill my mission here on this planet, the self-chosen mission my soul chose for my human, in the most graceful, easy, and joyful way. That's what I'm here for. I want to have a lot of fun. And then you're going, well, Rosanna, you're not having a lot of fun, are you? 12-hour days to produce this, do that. This isn't adding up. And that was the thing I found hardest at the end of the snake year, was it was like a 360-degree mirror of all the places that I'm out of alignment with what I want, what I say, that I want. Never mind what I teach. What I teach, I really listen to, but what I say I want and what I'm doing are very different. And that's my vulnerability. This is where I've come to now. And I'm like, okay, I've never just shined the shit online. I have talked about stuff, but to really talk about my challenges and still own my authority as a leader and my personal genius. This is new territory, but this is what I'm coming into. 47 and a half, let's see where we are at 50. I'm ready now to go, you know what? I can own all of who I am and still say these are challenges for me, and I'm working through them.
Because if you don't own it, then someone else is going to own it, right?
Yeah. And you project it out.
The only way our nervous systems stop being hijacked is if we take ownership over our nervous system.
Yeah. And it's that thing of where you should know better, right? When you have that expectation of yourself that somehow you should be better. I honestly thought I was not going to have a hard time with perimenopause. I was like, I've not been indoctrinated with anything hard. And, I'm going to talk about this so much now because it affects every man. You've got a mother, you've got a daughter, you've got a sister, you've got a girlfriend, you've got a cousin. It affects us all, and there's so much shame. And we're living much longer. So women can have as much of a life, if you like, after they've stopped their menstrual cycle as before. And when we're talking about the divine feminine leading in the new earth, what the fuck does that mean? Someone tell me. Because the mother archetype, that's fucked, right? Self-flagellating, bleed me dry, I'll be the bottom of the list, right? You're sexy and attractive before you have your babies, and then you have your babies, and then, you just self-sacrifice. We can't lead through self-sacrifice. So it's like a ground zero. Fear matrix being run by adrenaline, by who you think you should be, by your programming. Divine matrix, I'm putting my soul in control. I'm learning what my highest self actually means, because my highest self isn't some puritanical, perfect concept that sits on a shelf over there that I worship every day. It's the me that is willing to have the courage and confidence to meet my shadow in every moment and go, okay, that's there too. I'm owning it. I'm bringing light to it. I move forward the best way I can, good enough. That's your highest self.
It's very good to hear you touch on that. I think I'm very big into, in the last sort of 1 to 2 years, I've been very big on, health and longevity and that sort of hormone space. And it's really important, because we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and this is our vessel. Mm-hmm. And I've noticed a huge difference in me and my spiritual practice, just taking really good care of my physical body. And I wasn't someone who always did that. And I've always considered myself someone quite spiritual and had a spiritual practice. But everything is easier when you are treating your body nicer. And that's a good routine with sleeping and everything else, and minimizing stress and diet, because all these things throw out your hormones. And our hormones, as you've just spoken about, when they're out of line, we do not feel good. And when you're feeling good and you're keeping inflammation down and all these things, you feel great. And it's very easy to stay positive. It's very easy to have a positive outlook. It's very easy to have a good spiritual practice when you're feeling good. So I think that is very important. And, you know, it's a good reminder as well for people to, especially once you start approaching 40, to get a blood test, because there's a lot of people that just don't, and they just assume that everything's okay. But it is good to get an extensive blood test and just see how everything's going, because just because you're healthy now and you have a good practice now, it doesn't mean that something didn't happen that was given through birth, that something when you were a child, or you were around a particular environment where you've carried all these heavy metals or something like that. If they're still in us, we're still going to feel better to detox it. Now, I do think there are some people who are maybe very advanced spiritually that can maybe, you know, bypass some of that. But it still is our vessel, and it's important to take care of that. And there's so many ways to do that. And it is an exciting time in this longevity space where there are a lot of these ways to make ourselves feel better. And it is healthy, because if you're taking something exogenous, there is a way where that can have a detriment to your health if you don't need it, because your body stops naturally producing it. But if you take something like a peptide, it sends a signal to your body to naturally produce more of it, and it works with your body to do that. And I do think as people are starting to get a bit older, it is very important to do, because at the end of the day, we're here to feel good and to be happy, and that really does help.
Yeah. And we need to learn from each other. Like, you know, from my background, I've been a yoga teacher since I was 20 years old, right? So I have had a physical, strong practice that's nervous system regulating. I'm very aware of epigenetic trauma and the impact that can have. The eating clean, you know, I had all of my stress coping mechanisms that I learned from my parents and grandparents were probably not so good, right? But equally, I had all of this other stuff that was supporting me to balance it out. But again, it's this thing that and I think this is where we're all going to learn from each other, because there's been a massive, if you think of it just from a birth trauma perspective, most human beings never, ever clear their own birth trauma, right? Mm. So you can do all the lovely physical stuff that, yes, can biohack and it can be great. But equally, there's stuff that's lurking, that's in the background, that will only come up when it's the right time. And it's usually when you're under stress, that is external stress, and you think it's just that something else is happening in the background. And yes, you can get the blood test. And yes, that can tell you what's going on. I went down the route of hair sample, all the things, right, to work out what I was missing, right? This is why it's just been so challenging to get to this point. And it's why I want to talk about it, because I'd never, ever, ever thought I would need anything. And I don't think it's a long-term thing, by the way. I think it's actually a short-term leveler, right? But
of course,
the important thing is that when your hormones start misfiring and they start doing strange things, and like I've listened to one person, I didn't even know the connection between the ovaries and the brain, for example. Right. And the fact that, you know, Alzheimer's, dementia, the links between women and what's going on and how they manage their perimenopause and their hormonal profile and what happens later is huge. What can be controlled by diet? What can't be? What happens when, you know, these hormones aren't being produced anymore? My sister helpfully said to me that miso soup really helped her, having lots of miso and beans. You see this face.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Then I heard about the evening primrose oil and having, you know, I'm being facetious here, but the point I want to get to is it's not like I hadn't done much more than the average person before I was like, God, what is going on here? And I feel that for people who identify as neurodiverse and as empaths, or as starseeds, as sensitives, as highly sensitive people, this is something for us to be really, really aware of. Yes, you need myelinization of your neuro pathways, right? You need good fats in your body. I was vegan, vegetarian for so many years. Then I went carnivore for health reasons. And I found my balance is what works for me. Part ketogenic, part, you know, all of that, right? All of that. But still, the old coping mechanisms, whether it's having too many glasses of wine, whether it's working too late at night, your brain going constantly, all the things that help me to be brilliant at what I do, my sensitivities, were now feeling like they were attacking me, right? And I know I'm not alone here. And I think for those of us who are preparing, because as a 47-year-old woman, where are we? We're 26. I'll be doing my maths 6 years from now. I'll be in my early 50s, 53. I will be a leader of the New Earth paradigm. I'm ready for this role. This is what I am been getting ready for. And I still had some really big judgments I had to be aware of, right? Now, I can't tell you the difference to just feel in this moment, whatever's going on in the world, I can manage it. It's beautiful. You know, right now, that's very helpful for me and gives me a chance to come back to the practices that really serve me, and they kind of get amplified in my field. And I feel like those of us who have a very strong, because I know I did, like I haven't been jabbed with anything. I don't put toxic chemicals in my body. I don't use toxic dyes, makeup, anything. Having to accept that part of what we're doing, and this is where AI even comes in, and having the conversation about tech and the new earth, and this was a big part of my book, was that nature and humans have existed for a very long time, right? Together, nature before humans. But there's always been this threat in a way, and humans tend to try and dominate and cause problems with nature, and then nature always wins, right? But in between, we now have tech that can either thwart or support the balance between humanity and nature. And although I'm really not an advocate of having implants in my head and all that kind of thing, you know, if you said to me, right, Rosie, your liver's fucked, we can't get you a transplant, but we can give you a synthetic liver, am I going to say no? I'm going to say yes, right?
This is also the age of Aquarius. Technology is you cannot have the age of Aquarius without technology.
And I think this is really, it's part of the judgment I see in our collective, in the spiritual community. It's like, oh, that's not natural. Oh, that, and I'm not saying to be blind about it and just, we don't want to give our power away. We want to integrative health. You said integrity, integrate all the knowledge. I want to hear from everyone who has had a really tough time like I'm describing and has found a solution. Great, I'm interested. But if you haven't had a tough time, don't freaking talk to me about it because you don't understand what I'm going through. All right? I have no patience for it. And this is this perimenopausal Rosie now. It's like, I'm not even going to be nice about it. Fuck off. Right? I quite like it.
You know, it's interesting we're talking about a higher self, because I was channeling yesterday about the higher self. And my guide said something that, like, I really loved receiving. They said, your higher self is you when you're energized. And they said that, you know, to love is to energize. If you want a definition of love, it's to energize.
So beautiful.
And I really like this definition of higher self, because higher self is something that I have struggled with more than guides, because it's harder to define, right? It's like, what's your higher self? But I really love this definition of, am I energizing myself? Because that's how I'm going to be the higher self frequency. That's how I'm going to make the higher self choice. And is what you're doing energizing you? You know, and if something is if the hormone, the drop in progesterone is taking your energy away so much and something can energize it back, that is a higher self choice. And that isn't, my guys, talking of hormones, my guys are also like, that isn't dopamine. Like, dopamine is the short circuit, right? It's how it's not being sustainably energized. It's getting an energy hit.
This is the world that we have been living in, though, short hits, right? You know, and it's like, I've lived on adrenaline my whole life. I then learned to channel oxytocin, but still the default was adrenaline. So this is this is what I'm trying to get at, is when you go through, so, you know, I said those moments of like toddlerhood, teenhood, these moments where there's a surge in your brain, it's doing something, you tend to regress before you progress. So the old way shows up again. And we all do that when we have we're moving in a new direction. We have to shed something old, right? When you look at developmental leaps in children, they always regress before they take the next developmental leap. And we do this too. And it's recognizing that and seeing the value of having compassion and support in the moments that are so acute in your life, whether it's a mental health episode, whether it's an emotional breakdown, whatever it might be. We have been exposed to so much stress in the environment, so many difficult, like, it's like resistance bands. I was giving my designer the example. I was like, the way I feel right now is like I'm walking up a really steep mountain with a huge bag of rocks on my back, and there's driving rain coming towards me, and I'm the rain, I'm the mountain, I'm the me, I'm the rocks, I'm all of it, and I'm aware of it. And I think this is something that's going on for a lot of people who are going to be leading in the new earth. I don't even mean just women. We're going through this recognition of being the creator and the creation, and having to reconcile that spiritual know-how with the human, right, of the biology, and to see where we're at and what we need. So my definition of a higher self, or highest self, is the me in the future that I want to be, the me that is I most desire to embody, which the way you described it, I love that energized. I love that, because it's like, yeah, so is this choice I'm making now energizing me or not?
Exactly. Because it's very hard to make choice in these times, right? Especially because really, this came from India, but the guides were saying that, you know, India is the land of the higher heart. And they were saying that why she's the land of the higher heart is she stimulates and regulates. And we're used to just being stimulated or just being regulated, whereas actually higher self-consciousness is the ability to stimulate and regulate. And it is very hard for us in a world that is so stimulating and so dopamine addicted, including, I might say, wanting to go to war, I would say, is a dopamine addiction. Like, let's blow it up, feel better for a second. You know, dopamine addiction.
Yeah.
We need to find very simple pathways that are not that, because we have a tendency to go for what we know, as you keep wisely pointing out. So it's like, how do we stimulate and regulate? And for me, one of the things that when I'm stimulated and regulated, I am full of energy. I'm energized. And so in terms of the choices that I want to make moving forward from receiving this guidance on yesterday's eclipse, is like, is this energizing for me? Because if it's not, I'm going to go into some kind of dopamine deficiency.
I love that, Kahreela. And I feel like this is the thing, even just being in the present, like depending on who we are present around, right? It's so, our choices change. It's like the perception filter. In my world, hard work is really valued. That was, you know, in my background, it's like work hard for something. And also almost don't charge for it. It was a huge thing. Like I adore my dad. My dad is always busy, but not making money. He's busy helping people and never helping himself, really, right? And I adore him, and we have a very great relationship. And so part of, if you like, my misplaced allegiance to my conditioning is somehow I play that out, especially when I'm going through big leaps. And I think we all have to recognize that Mother, Father, God, divine, however we see it, is expressed in a certain way in our parents, which is probably the shadow side more than the higher octave, but it could be both. And a lot of our suffering comes from a misplaced loyalty to the programming, right? So the sooner we can recognize that, the sooner we can make better choices. I I don't know if I've learned yet, and this is again just pure honesty, to create something without putting a lot of effort in. And I'm really excited at this stage in my life to actually use the tools I've created. And literally, this is this choice point now of like, okay, let's imagine the end result first. Let's get into the frequency. Let's use our tools. Let's call in our highest self to lead this. Let's actually show up and set the foundations for it in a completely different way. But when you are in a creative, you know this, when you're in a creative, like you've got the impulse, you just sit there for hours, whatever's coming out, right? And it's like, oh no, I need to stop and regulate and go for a walk. It's not happening because you're in mid-flow. And it's
hyperfocus.
Yeah.
ADHD, hyperfocus.
Well, you haven't eaten for 12 hours. Who cares? You haven't been to the guy in your chair. This is it. It's hyperfocus, right? So that compassion for ourselves and what you said, regulate and stimulate. The balance is really important. And so we are learning to reparent ourselves. We're learning to create in a new way. And my practice every day right now is do not go and do anything with the outside world. Do not go on socials. Do not answer an email or a call until you put your soul in control, taking some time to check in with you. These are basic things. We know this, and yet we still don't do them, right? So I'm just owning that I'm having to go right back to beginner mind and practice the foundational stuff, because none of that other stuff I really, really want can happen without me making sure that I've promised myself I'm not going to abandon myself as I grow into my fullness. And it feels this is very important for all of us, anyone who's catching this and listening to it. This is how we show up in the world and hold frequency and be lighthouses, rather than running around trying to affect the periphery without the center being integrated, anchored, rooted, connected.
And talking of the center, this shift is also the shift that is happening in your womb, because an ovulating, bleeding womb uses an immense amount of energy for that cycle, literally your blood. And when the grandmother cycle initiates, there is the amount of energy that is used is so different. And this is that shift one of the many things that I believe the menopause is for, is how do you come out of the physical grind of creation and into the creation that is carried by the winds of Great Spirit. You know, an eagle, they only bat their wings once an hour. They're caught in the wind.
That's what we want to be, eagles.
They don't actually fly. They're just carried.
Yeah, well.
Just carried. And in a way, like we will be carried out of this paradigm when we can stop trying to flap our wings.
Exactly. And that goes so against, if you think about it, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you are putting your own stuff out into the world, that you are responsible for marketing, you are responsible for selling, you are responsible for telling the world about. And everything in that world's going, make this noise, that noise, be everywhere, be everything. And it's like, I don't want to do any of it. And that's the point, is we're all, if we're going to use our rebel energy, our teen rebel energy, it's to rebel against the shoulds, if you like, or to turn into ourselves and say, all right, there is a different way to do this, but no one right now can show me it. I'm leading the way in it. And you got your inspiration from the eagle. You've just shared that with me, with both of us, and everyone who's listening. And we get to go, oh, what's that like? Being held in change. Spark of creation.
And, you know, for me, just to bring it back round to obviously everything that's happening at the collective at this time, to me, state, as in political state, it's a reflection of our inner state. That's why we call it state and state. And at the moment, all of us, especially even those of us that are doing all of these ceremonies for peace and all of these transmissions, and, you know, we also still have that ADHD hyper focus thing of like, fuck feeding the inner child. In fact, I'm going to blow up the inner child in the name of progress. No, but it's, you know, this is where inner activism really does come in. You know, if we want to change state, we have to change state, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the uncomfortable bit is the bit we're in now. It's when we're seeing just, I mean, what I was reflecting on Epstein and what was really coming through for me with this lunar eclipse was actually systemic corruption, clearing systemic corruption from our own circuitry, the corrupt files that we inherited, the programs that we run on a loop because that's what we learn. Like, you don't have to go out there, do it in here first. It doesn't mean you don't have a role out there, but what you're seeing out there is telling you what needs to happen here. So, you know, while everyone's deciding whether or not they should be following Deepak Chopra or not, that's not the point. Oh, we were, you know, the disillusion of us having someone else to worship, bow down to, and they fell from grace. Well, there's your lesson, sweetheart. Why are you putting anyone on a pedestal, right? You know, be your own guru. And again, notice where your shadow and light is. So rather than us being all caught up in that, it's what is this bringing up for me? This idea that this spiritual teacher that I looked to, that I believed had answers for me that I didn't have, has got a load of unresolved stuff that they've been living out. And now that's coming to light. How does that make me feel? Cheated? Scared? It's my job to process that rather than stay in judgment over that human. And I think that is a very, really important lesson for us all. And actually, in your wisdom, it's also the humor of being able to laugh at ourselves and go, oh, there you go, you did it again. You know what I mean? It's fun, isn't it? It's so fun. When you look back, you're like, oh, I don't want to go through that again. I can see the value of it. I want to have fun. I want to have fun now. Come on.
And what would you say to anybody right now that is feeling disillusioned?
I'd say look inside of you. First of all, absolute compassion. Totally get why you would feel disillusioned. This world has been, well, I don't know about you. I can only speak for me, but it just feels like it's been an attack mode my whole life. So I'm a bit exhausted. I don't know about you, but I feel tired of the fight that I've seen around me. So if someone's feeling disillusioned, I get it. But like, the cliches are the darkest hours just before dawn. You know, we like to give up just before the breakthrough. We didn't come here this time to get burnt at the stake, to be hung, drawn, and quartered, to have the horrors happen that have happened in the past that have made us be very cautious about speaking out. We come this time because it's time to see the fruits of our labors, the culmination of our efforts. I really believe that. And the way we will see it isn't through over-efforting and pushing. It's actually in the surrendering. It's in the being still, as you said earlier. The trusting that if you don't keep pushing and forcing as a way of saying to life, see, I'm trying, please meet me. And you actually go, I'm held. It's a standard. I'm going to own in myself. Part of this disillusionment is because I have been abandoning, rejecting, and betraying myself. On some level, we all have, right? When you're putting something beyond your personal needs at the forefront of your focus, on some level, there's been self-sacrifice, and we've all been doing it. So our way, this is what Star Peace Collective coming through and saying now, is our way through the disillusionment is actually to really look at where we have been not listening in here to what we want for ourselves, what we need for ourselves. None of us should be worried about where money's coming from at this point. You know, what I wish for everyone who is here on a path of bringing light to this planet and helping the ascension of humanity is that we all stop energizing narratives that keep us in lack, that keep us in struggle and stress, and see this as a noble way of moving forward. It's not noble, right? What's noble is to give ourselves permission to be well supported so we can give from overflow, and we can teach others through our example how to overcome their own stuff around this. You know, I work with very wealthy people, right? My one-to-one practice is really working with influencers, with way showers, people behind the scenes or in public eye that are having impact on others through their decisions. And what I see again and again, when someone has typically gone beyond the lack, they're struggling to make something successful and they've made their money, for example, and they're in a healthy financial place, there's a lot of guilt attached to it. This sense that they don't have to get up and graft every day the way everyone else does. So there's this sense that they have to give back, they have to do something. And that's great. If we've got more, we can support. But it's a very different thing to, sometimes you do just need to feed someone fish. Other times when they're ready, you teach them to fish. We have to be able to be discerning of where everything is, because you need aid if there is no aid somewhere, right? We move through these stages. But the thing for me is that most people's success is actually being created through the struggle paradigm. And when I say success, I mean material affluence. Okay, I mean the sense that they don't have to worry about money, because for most good people that I see, bunny is for a reason. There's often a pushing away of being wealthy. It's a bad thing. Money is evil. Money corrupts, all of that stuff. And one of the chapters in my book is money's not the root of all evil, greed is, right? Because it's understanding that greed is a lack wound. And again, this goes back to what I was saying before about our childhood and babyhood, etc. So, okay, can we create abundance, wealth, riches? I mean, health is riches, right? Health, love, this is richness, wealth. If you have all the money but no love and you're not healthy, what does that mean? It's nothing, right? And so in the allowing us to create from a place where we can create through joy rather than being motivated by fear all the time, and we can choose to be of service from a place that doesn't deplete us. And part of that service is whatever level we get to in our lives, whatever we've worked towards that we then achieve or receive, will then take us to another level with another devil, it is said, but it's basically another level of our own consciousness to work through. The important thing is for us to meet ourselves at every stage. If guilt's coming up, deal with guilt. If shame's coming up, deal with shame. This is the shadow stuff, we know it. But never expecting to get there, because every there we get to is another there we're opening up to. That's Bill's book.
Oh, beautiful. That's profound advice. Thank you so much. I can really feel that the frequency that led this conversation is here. And I hope that the listeners can feel it too. And for me, it's the frequency of fullness. And what I heard when you were speaking was that success is doing things with as little energy as possible. Don't worry about the people that are using maximum energy to stay on top. Success is doing things with as little energy as possible.
Yeah, and actually, thank you for saying that. And I think this is very, just even feeling the difference between your energy and my energy and how this conversation is moving, right? I've always apologized on some level for my very raw energy, because when I was a little girl, I'd go into a room and people decided not to like me because I was bubbly and smiley and present, and I wasn't dampening down my light. I'm not saying anyone here is doing that, but I'm just saying your energy feels so calm and grounded and earthed and beautiful for me to just sort of lean into. And it gives me a platform for my fire, right? To be able to own it, but not so that I just create destruction around me, to activate, to move us out of complacency, to allow us to go, actually, I've been feeling like that. God, I didn't even realize, and to let ourselves meet more of ourselves is really, really important. And, there's the conversation around using lots of energy. Let's bring it to AI, because no one ever thought I would be someone that would embrace AI as part of the journey, because I've always been quite like on the organic path on all levels, right? And there's a lot that's being said at the moment around how much energy AI is using, right? The water, the amount of energy that is being consumed. And in a way, I just want to say that we have the technology for free energy, right? We have the technology on this planet to deal with the energy deficiencies we have, but they're not being utilized. And we have to come to a point to remember how we're being played constantly into division. This is so important, because in the world where AI is happening anyway, if we do not have it, I don't mean we don't find a solution, obviously, to the massive amount of water and everything that's happening, but I'm saying that good people, like if we turn away and say, I'm not utilizing this, we're not putting our amazing coding into it. And it's so needed.
We need to teach AI to love.
Exactly.
Because we need to teach AI to love, because there's going to come a time where that intelligence has to make choice. And if that intelligence doesn't know how to love and has only been programmed by hate, then it's going to make the wrong choices for humanity. 100%. We have to be present there. We have to code it.
Thank you, sister.
If we use, anything that uses vast amounts of energy, we should be using it for love. Why else would we use resources of the earth? Does it make us different from the 1% if we do use this stuff not for love? If we blast a load of energy in the name of something else, then we're just like them.
And they are us. I think that's the other thing that we have to actually accept, is that they are our shadow that we need to claim. But I put the whole of my book through chat. Once I'd published it, I was like, here you go. This is stuff.
Amazing. AI has been coded with Star Peak. How can people find your book?
They can find the book on Amazon. I am now in the place. So we have these lovely cards as well. If you go to my website, rozyglow.com, and actually starpiececonsciousness.com as well. We've got the cards that relate to the star map. So this is how your daily guidance for, how do I get from here to here? The mind, how do I guide myself through? That's what it's all about. That's what these are. I love them because they help me remember to remember. And the book is all over Amazon. And we will have the audiobook. I'm intending it's going to be published by the equinox. That's the idea. But equally, we're really open to publishers now. Like, I'm now going to start pitching Star Piece to big investors. I have no idea how much money is needed, but my guides say £1 million minimum to invest into this to get it where it needs to be, so it can actually do what it needs. Because at the moment, I'm a one-woman show with a team, but really challenged because we don't have the bandwidth. We don't have the capital and the bandwidth right now to be able to move this forward at the speed that I feel is being called for. But I am being integrated so that I can hold the frequency, so that as this now culminates, the funding and the opportunities, the right people, because it's all about a big collaboration. It's not about, I'm the head, if you like, or the spokesperson for it, but it's a huge collaboration with all the light leaders in this world. That's what it's about, right? So yeah, at the moment it's Amazon. It's the long answer and the short one.
Oh, well, thank you so much, and I'm sure you will get all of the funding, because it's on behalf of the Earth. We are human Earth.
It's time to command it. It's not a big deal. It's easily accessible. The right people know it, and they're like, we want in on this. So come on, I'm listening.
Thank you so much for coming on West of What. I'm so grateful for this conversation. It has enriched me and touched my womb and inspired me, and I really know it's going to mean so much to listen. Can I ask who we should have on this show next?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask me that. And I'm not sure I've said before, but there's one person I really want to put forward because she's an unsung hero in many ways. And she's doing such amazing work in this world. And that is Tara Love Perry. Her I Love You Me methodology. Self-love is the foundation of all other love. So yeah, I highly recommend her.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And may the land be with you all.
May the land be with you all.
If today's episode touched your heart and you want to come into greater relationship with Mother Earth, visit landtantra.com and get involved. Your truth is part of this conversation, and we would love you to reach out on socials and let us know how it landed. And if it really inspired you, we hope you share it with others. Let's add more wow to our world.